If we were to look closer at the deepest, most distant horizons of time, we would witness a magnificent crimson transformation billions of years in the making. The familiar, comforting yellow disk will one day gracefully swell into a staggering, majestic red giant, permanently reshaping the entire architecture of our celestial neighbourhood. It is a slow, dignified metamorphosis, marking the ultimate peaceful closure to a long and brilliant reign. This cosmic structure of light and gravity holds an epic, unfolding story that has quietly played out since the very dawn of the world. It silently guards the gently spinning carousel we call home, organising the chaos of the deep into a symphony of colours and rhythmic cycles. You're about to embark on a mesmerising journey through the hidden life of this ancient, unwavering fire. Allow your breathing to naturally synchronise with the ancient rhythmic pulse of the massive star that waits faithfully for the world to turn. Just let go, sinking deeper and deeper into the soft, comforting darkness of your bed, and simply feel the soft, golden warmth of morning light touching your skin as you step outside at dawn. Feel the soft, golden warmth of morning light touching your skin as you step outside at dawn. That gentle touch is the culmination of a vast cosmic journey that defies human comprehension. The energy warming your face left the surface of our local star exactly 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago, hurtling outward into the freezing, breathless void of the solar system. It crossed 93 million miles of absolute emptiness at the ultimate speed limit of the universe, never slowing, never wavering. Imagine the profound silence of that journey, a solitary ray of light piercing the dark expanse between worlds, passing the orbits of Mercury and Venus unnoticed. Finally, it strikes the Earth's atmosphere, scattering through layers of gas to gently illuminate a single fragile drop of morning dew resting on a blade of grass. This daily miracle happens so quietly we take it for granted, yet it is a continuous, unbroken chain of light bridging the terrifying gap between a raging stellar core and our peaceful, waking world. Every dawn is a direct physical connection to the immense engine burning at the centre of our sky. Surprisingly, the universe forces light to endure a grueling, chaotic marathon long before it ever reaches the vacuum of space. While the journey from the sun's surface to Earth takes mere minutes, the birth of that light tells a much older, darker story. Deep within the crushing, unimaginable pressure of the solar core, hydrogen atoms violently fuse to create a single photon of pure energy. This newborn photon cannot simply fly outward. Instead, it enters the radiative zone, a dense maze of plasma so thick that light itself is constantly absorbed and re-emitted in random directions. Bouncing endlessly from atom to atom, it takes this single particle of light thousands, perhaps even 100,000 years, to zigzag its way to the surface. Consider the profound implications of this timeline as you watch the sunrise today. The light touching the trees right now was forged during the last ice age, trapped in a boiling sphere of gas while early humans were just beginning to paint on cave walls. It is ancient energy, finally breaking free to wash over our modern world. This golden glow we welcome each morning is a beautiful deception, hiding a reality of unfathomable violence. When we look up at the calm, comforting yellow disk slipping above the horizon, we are witnessing the heavily filtered exhaust of a continuous roaring nuclear furnace. Inside that seemingly placid sphere, millions of tons of matter are being obliterated every single second, converted entirely into raw, screaming energy. The sheer scale of this continuous detonation dwarfs any explosive force ever conceived by human minds. Yet, by the time this cataclysmic energy radiates outward, expands across millions of miles of cold space, and filters through our protective blanket of air, it has been tamed. It arrives at our doorstep not as a destructive shockwave, but as a gentle, sustaining warmth that coaxes flowers to bloom and thaws the winter frost. It is a profound cosmic paradox that the most violent, raging inferno in our neighbourhood manifests to us as the quietest, most peaceful phenomenon we experience. We simply call it a tranquil golden morning. If we were to look closer at the mechanics of dawn from high above the planet, we would see that a sunrise is not a singular, fleeting event. The Terminator line, the sharp boundary dividing the sunlit half of the Earth from the dark night, is in a state of eternal motion. As our blue marble steadily rotates on its tilted axis, this line of first light constantly sweeps across the surface at over 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. It glides silently over sleeping oceans, races across the jagged peaks of mountain ranges, and washes over sprawling continents in a perpetual, unstoppable wave. Somewhere on Earth, at this exact second, the sun is just cresting the horizon, casting those first long, dramatic shadows. When dusk falls on your specific location, you're merely passing the baton of morning to someone else further west. The sunrise never truly ends. It is a permanent glowing ring of dawn eternally circling the globe, waking life in a continuous rhythmic cycle. Notice the distinct soothing palette of the early hours, painted in soft peaches, rich amber, and deep crimson. This daily masterpiece is a matter of optical physics played out on a planetary scale. When the sun hangs low on the horizon at daybreak, its light must slice through a much thicker, denser slice of the Earth's atmosphere than it does at noon. This extended path creates an intense natural filtration system, where countless molecules of nitrogen and oxygen eagerly scatter the shorter, more energetic blue and violet wavelengths in every direction. By the time the beam finally reaches your eyes, the harsher colours have been completely stripped away, exhausted by the long journey through the air. Only the longest, most resilient wavelengths, the warm reds, oranges, and calming yellows, possess the strength to penetrate the thick morning haze unbroken. The resulting glow is a deeply primal, comforting illumination that naturally signals our bodies to wake slowly, bathing the landscape in a gentle, nostalgic hue before the stark white of midday takes over. Deep within the quiet stillness of a waking forest, a subtle, synchronized choreography begins the moment the first rays of light crest the horizon. Plants do not have eyes or a nervous system, yet they possess an extraordinary microscopic sensitivity to the arrival of dawn. Through a process called phototropism, specialized cells in their stems and leaves detect the specific wavelengths of early morning sunlight. This subtle detection triggers a slow, hydraulic shift of water within their delicate tissues. This internal pressure causes the plant to physically bend, turning its broad leaves eastward like tiny living solar panels angling for the best possible exposure. It is a desperate, vital reach for survival, maximizing their ability to catch the gentle morning light before the heat of the day forces them to conserve moisture. Watching a field of young sunflowers silently track the rising sun is a humbling reminder of the deep, unbreakable biological tether that connects every green, living thing on this planet to the distant burning star in our sky. Heavy, overcast skies often feel gloomy, yet they reveal a different, equally magnificent property of our local star. Even when a thick, impenetrable blanket of grey clouds completely obscures the sun from view, the world does not plunge into absolute darkness. Instead, the incoming solar radiation strikes the trillions of microscopic water droplets suspended in the cloud layer, bouncing and scattering millions of times in a chaotic, brilliant pinball effect. This massive diffusion effectively turns the entire sky into a giant glowing softbox, radiating a perfectly even, shadowless illumination down to the surface. The light reaches under forest canopies, wraps around the sides of buildings, and fills every hidden crevice with a quiet, muted brightness. The sheer power of the sun is so overwhelming that even its blocked, scattered remnants are more than enough to completely overpower the blackness of space. It is a testament to the star's raw output that a cloudy day on Earth is still vastly brighter than the brightest, clearest noon on a distant, lonely planet like Pluto. Consider the staggering, almost incomprehensible bounty of energy that quietly showers down upon our atmosphere every single day. We build massive power plants, dig deep into the earth for coal, and harness the wind, all in a relentless struggle to power our modern, demanding civilization. Yet the sun freely donates an amount of energy that makes all human efforts look profoundly insignificant. In just one single hour, the sunlight striking the surface of the earth contains more raw power than the entire global population consumes in a full year. This ceaseless deluge of photons falls on empty deserts, vast oceans and dense cities alike, a torrential downpour of potential energy that is largely absorbed back into the environment as heat. We are bathed in an overabundance of cosmic wealth, living at the bottom of an invisible ocean of generous life-giving light. The soft, golden warmth you feel on your skin at dawn is just a tiny, localized fraction of an astronomical power transfer that continuously sustains the entire biosphere. Standing perfectly still in the morning sunshine, you're experiencing something that defies human intuition: the physical weight of light. Photons, the fundamental particles of light, possess no mass whatsoever, yet they carry undeniable momentum. When they strike a surface and are absorbed or reflected, they transfer a tiny fraction of that momentum, pushing against the object with a microscopic but very real physical force known as radiation pressure. Right now, the gentle light touching your skin is actually exerting a continuous, infinitesimal push against your entire body. On Earth, this force is incredibly weak, completely overwhelmed by gravity and the heavy friction of the air around us. However, in the frictionless vacuum of deep space, this continuous pressure is powerful enough to push dust away from comets, and could even be harnessed to propel massive shimmering solar sails across the solar system. The morning light is not just illuminating you, it is physically interacting with you, acting as a ghostly cosmic wind gently pushing against the shores of our world. This cosmic energy possesses a remarkable ability to find its way into the darkest, most hidden corners of the Earth. In steep, deeply carved mountain valleys, where the sun itself might not rise above the ridges until mid-morning, dawn still arrives with a gentle, glowing presence. This happens because the initial direct rays of sunlight strike the towering peaks high above, illuminating the bare rock and snow in a brilliant fiery display called alpenglow. These illuminated summits act as massive natural reflectors, bouncing the scattered light back down into the shadowed depths below. The valley floor slowly brightens not from direct exposure, but from a complex, beautiful geometry of ambient reflections playing off the surrounding landscape. It creates a serene, luminous environment where the air feels cool and still, yet the world is perfectly visible. The sun's reach is so absolute, and its light so persistent that it easily bends around obstacles, ensuring that even the deepest shadows eventually yield to the gentle, warming touch of the morning. Yielding to that gentle, warming touch, the shadowed world slowly awakens not just to a stark increase in brightness, but to a deeply hidden, vibrantly complex symphony of natural illumination. Picture a magnificent, towering arc stretching across a perfectly calm, rain-washed sky, its parallel bands of distinct, striking hues contrasting sharply against the dark, retreating masses of heavy storm clouds. This spectacular, universally recognized display is merely a temporary, fleeting unmasking of the star's true, profoundly hidden nature, briefly revealing the secret, divided components of everyday daylight to the naked eye. The sheer energy pouring relentlessly from the heavens above arrives not as a fragmented, chaotic collection of varying tints, but as a single, blindingly pristine beam of unimaginably pure white. Within this flawless, overwhelming stream of continuous illumination, every single colour of the vast visible spectrum is perfectly blended together and tightly woven in absolute, unwavering mathematical harmony. it travels endlessly through the freezing absolute vacuum of deep space as a unified wave of boundless visual potential, carefully and flawlessly concealing its vibrant, chaotic secrets from anything that might observe it. This brilliant white light serves as the ultimate cosmic canvas, simultaneously holding the fiery burning reds, the deep mysterious indigos, and the soothing biological greens in a state of perfectly suspended fragile unity. Only when this incredibly complete beam intimately interacts with the dense physical matter of atmospheric gases does it violently shatter into the individual colourful notes we can actually perceive and name. The seemingly ordinary, colourless daylight silently washing over your immediate surroundings is, in staggering reality, a dense, invisible tapestry containing absolutely every shade, tint, and hue imaginable. High above the freshly soaked ground, billions of tiny spherical water droplets remain suspended long after a heavy downpour, lingering quietly in the cool, damp layers of the sky. When the pure white solar beam strikes these microscopic spheres at just the precise, necessary angle, a breathtaking feat of natural optical engineering instantly and silently takes place. Each individual, floating droplet perfectly acts as an incredibly precise, naturally formed prism, abruptly bending the incoming light wave and slowing down its constituent parts at slightly different speeds. This subtle, microscopic internal refraction forces the tightly packed colours to forcibly pull apart from one another, seamlessly fanning out into their true distinct wavelengths across the tiny interior of the water. The separated light then bounces sharply off the back inner wall of the droplet and rapidly exits, cascading directly into the atmosphere as a fully formed massive arc of brilliant glowing colour. Let your breathing slow as you imagine countless millions of these tiny watery prisms working in perfect simultaneous concert across the vast open expanse of the upper atmosphere. They magically transform a simple passing weather system into a colossal radiant bow, serving as a magnificent, fleeting monument to the deeply complex geometry of travelling starlight. Notice how the vast dome of the sky dramatically transforms into a sweeping, immersive canvas of burning amber and crushed violet as the day inevitably draws to a quiet close. This particular evening masterpiece is not just a simple trick of distance, but a highly complex physical painting actively crafted by the very air we continuously breathe into our lungs. Trillions of microscopic dust particles, drifting biological pollen, and scattered airborne gas molecules eagerly intercept the fading light as it cuts a low, incredibly shallow angle toward the darkening horizon. These tiny, floating physical obstacles act like highly specialized, ruthless filters, aggressively scattering the shorter, cooler blue and violet wavelengths away into the freezing, invisible upper layers of the stratosphere. The exact, entirely unique shade of any given sunset is intimately determined by whatever invisible particulate matter happens to be temporarily suspended in the local atmosphere that specific fleeting evening. A violent volcanic eruption half a world away, or a sudden fierce gust of wind lifting dry desert soil, can dramatically and permanently alter the evening's mesmerizing twilight palette. The sky itself becomes a living, constantly shifting historical record of the atmosphere's invisible contents, beautifully translated into a final, breathtaking burst of overwhelming, deeply saturated colour. Sometimes, if the atmospheric conditions are absolutely pristine and the ocean horizon stretches out flawlessly flat, the setting star gracefully offers one final, deeply elusive optical secret before vanishing entirely. Just as the very last burning sliver of the brilliant solar disk dips silently below the watery edge, a sudden vivid burst of emerald light can spontaneously materialize out of nowhere. This exceedingly rare atmospheric phenomenon, known simply as the green flash, lasts for only a fraction of a single heartbeat, vanishing into the creeping dusk almost before the human mind can fully process it. It occurs solely because the thick, dense lower layers of the atmosphere temporarily act like a powerful, distorting magnifying glass, physically separating the final escaping rays into distinct horizontal bands of intense colour. As the longer red and orange bands sink entirely out of visual range first, the solitary, highly refracted green band momentarily becomes the absolutely only visible light, magnified and brilliantly isolated against the twilight. Allow your shoulders to drop and your muscles to completely relax, resting in the comforting knowledge that the universe is quietly brimming with these fleeting, microscopic, hidden wonders. It acts as a quiet, almost magical parting wink from the blazing cosmos, a tiny emerald reward strictly reserved only for the most patient and sharply observant nocturnal watchers. Down on the quiet, shadowed forest floor, the lush, verdant canopy completely surrounding you operates on a deeply counterintuitive, almost paradoxical principle of colour perception and biological survival. The vivid, striking green we intrinsically associate with thriving wilderness and vibrant, healthy ecological life is actually the one specific colour the foliage completely and utterly rejects. As the unified, glaring white light showers down upon the dense forest, the highly complex microscopic molecules of chlorophyll inside every single leaf eagerly absorb the red and blue wavelengths. These specific energy-rich colours are actively and aggressively consumed, violently ripped from the visual spectrum to tirelessly fuel the biological machinery that sustains the towering ancient trees and delicate ferns alike. The remaining, completely unabsorbed green wavelength is entirely useless to the plant's internal biological furnace, and so it is immediately bounced back out into the surrounding environment, reflecting freely away from the waxy surface. When you gaze deeply at a thriving sunlit garden, you're surprisingly merely perceiving the discarded, unneeded remnants of the vast, incredibly powerful solar spectrum. The true, vital colour of a leaf's immense, sustaining appetite remains forever invisible to us, completely hidden in the specific, energetic wavelengths it quietly swallows to survive the day. High in the freezing crystalline altitudes of the upper troposphere, a completely different, mesmerising kind of optical alchemy quietly unfolds, hidden miles above the warming, shifting surface below. Thin, wispy cirrus clouds drifting silently in the sub-zero atmospheric currents are composed entirely of microscopic, perfectly hexagonal ice crystals, suspended delicately in the thin, frigid air. When the brilliant, piercing solar beam passes directly through this incredibly high, frozen veil, these tiny, geometric shards of ice catch the light and mathematically bend its forward trajectory. This flawless, precise refraction instantly organises the scattered chaotic rays into a massive, pale, luminous ring that perfectly and evenly encircles the bright, blinding central disk. Often accompanied by bright, glowing atmospheric spots known affectionately as sundogs, this ethereal, floating halo paints the daytime sky with a ghostly, undeniable geometric precision that borders on the supernatural. It serves as a stunning visual reminder that the atmosphere high above our heads is often a freezing, highly structured environment, completely distinct from the warm, chaotic, breathable air below. The daytime sky temporarily wears this delicate ring of light as a magnificent, shimmering crown, forged entirely by the fragile intersection of ancient starlight and suspended, floating, symmetrical frost. Uncover the sheer physical resilience secretly hidden within the darkest, most intense hues of the late evening twilight as the spinning world slowly prepares for a period of deep sleep. As the star sinks lower, the surrounding air often thickens considerably with evening mist, heavy industrial haze, and the rapidly cooling, condensing moisture of the rapidly approaching night. While the delicate, highly energetic blues and greens are easily trapped, quickly absorbed, and scattered by this dense atmospheric soup, the deep, heavy ruby reds effortlessly push through the gloom. These brilliant scarlet rays physically possess the absolutely longest wavelengths in the entire visible spectrum, allowing them to ride smoothly over and around the microscopic obstacles floating in the dimming air. Sink deeper into your resting space, feeling the steady, calming rhythm of your own pulse as the highly resilient red light intensely bathes the darkening world in its warm, final embrace. This penetrating, powerful crimson glow acts as a silent, unwavering beacon, loudly signalling the absolute final moments of the daylight with an unstoppable, fiercely determined intensity. It is the heaviest, most physically enduring fragment of the original white beam, stubbornly refusing to be extinguished until the turning horizon finally and completely swallows it from view. When these potent, completely unseen rays violently strike ordinary oxygen molecules high in the thin stratosphere, they instantly split the atomic bonds apart, forcing the atoms to nervously recombine into something entirely new. This continuous, silent atmospheric collision directly creates the ozone layer, a fragile, glowing, invisible shield of gas that entirely envelops and fiercely protects the globe below from total devastation. Without this specific high-energy invisible light relentlessly driving this continuous global chemical reaction, the surface below would be completely sterilized by the raw, unfiltered cosmic radiation of deep, empty space. The star ironically provides the exact, precise mechanism required to protect our fragile biological life from the very worst of its own most dangerous, highly radioactive solar emissions. It is a masterful, unseen balance of staggering cosmic power, endlessly playing out silently in the dark, freezing altitudes far above the tallest, most towering clouds. Look upward into the midnight sky, where the silvery, cold illumination of the full moon beautifully casts long, pale shadows across the quiet, peacefully sleeping landscape. This incredibly tranquil nocturnal glow is a massive planetary illusion, a beautiful cosmic masquerade completely hiding the stark fact that the moon itself produces absolutely no light of its own. Every single soft beam illuminating the dark, silent woods and reflecting perfectly off the glassy surfaces of still lakes is simply ancient sunlight that has been ricocheted off the desolate, dusty lunar surface. The star, though physically hidden completely from our direct view behind the massive rocky bulk of our planet, is still actively and relentlessly illuminating our nights by a massive distant proxy. The completely barren moon simply acts as a massive, deeply imperfect spherical mirror, catching the relentless, blinding solar glare and vastly softening it into a gentle, pearlescent wash for our resting eyes. Even in the deepest, absolute darkest hours of the lonely night, we are never truly physically disconnected from the blazing, roaring nuclear furnace sitting at the centre of the system. The star's sweeping reach is so thoroughly absolute that it silently governs the visual beauty of the night just as firmly and completely as it rules the burning, vibrant day. Ultimately, the entire visual majesty of our immediate environment is absolutely and entirely dependent on this singular, unimaginably distant point of roaring continuous nuclear ignition. Take a lingering moment to deeply relax your jaw and let go of any remaining bodily tension, simply absorbing the profound, stark reality of our brightly illuminated, deeply vibrant world. Without the continuous blinding influx of this broadband stellar radiation, the very concept of colour would instantly cease to exist, rendering the deep oceans, vast forests and soaring skies into an absolute, featureless black void. The vibrant burning reds of a falling autumn leaf, the piercing, frozen blue of a glacial crevasse, and the infinitely varied tones of soft human skin are all just temporary interactions with borrowed travelling starlight. We unknowingly live our entire lives inside a giant continuous projection of scattered energy, moving blindly through a massive global gallery of hues painted exclusively by an ancient central fire. The rich, deeply textured tapestry of physical existence we navigate every single day is, at its absolute core, simply the star's brilliant light temporarily revealing itself in the cold, surrounding matter. To transform that cold surrounding matter into a hospitable, breathing haven, the star must offer something far more profound than mere visual brilliance. Beyond the blinding white spectrum that paints the daytime skies, an entirely invisible, deeply penetrating wave of energy continuously radiates outward into the freezing vacuum. This unseen force is infrared radiation, a relentless, long-wave thermal emission that travels right alongside the visible beams but remains entirely undetectable to human eyes. Feel the comforting heat radiating from a sun-baked stone, and you are intimately experiencing the direct, physical consequence of this silent cosmic journey. When these invisible thermal waves finally strike the solid ground, they aggressively excite the microscopic molecules within the dirt, gravel and sand. This sudden, atomic agitation manifests to our physical senses as pure, soothing warmth, effectively transferring the distant stellar furnace's energy directly into the terrestrial crust. Without this continuous invisible thermal bombardment, the very ground beneath our feet would instantly freeze into an impenetrable, lifeless block of ice. The star literally bakes the planetary surface from vast distances away, turning a drifting celestial rock into a warm, incubating hearth. It is a quiet, ceaseless act of thermal generosity that fundamentally underpins every biological process we currently comprehend. Surprisingly, the shifting rhythm of the changing seasons has absolutely nothing to do with how close our world drifts to the central fire. Instead, the majestic cycle of spring blooms and autumn harvests is dictated by a seemingly slight, permanent tilt in the planetary axis. As the globe sails along its orbital path, it leans gracefully toward a specific side, completely altering the direct angle at which the thermal waves strike the surface. When a specific hemisphere leans directly toward the incoming radiation, the energy slices through the atmosphere in a highly concentrated, intense and brutally efficient manner. This direct exposure triggers the sweltering, lingering days of summer, forcing the local environment to absorb massive, prolonged doses of thermal power. Conversely, as that exact same hemisphere tilts away later in the orbital cycle, the incoming energy is dramatically stretched and diluted across a much wider, shallower area. This simple geometric deflection plunges the region into the dark, freezing depths of winter, allowing the local environment a necessary period of deep rest. The elegant planetary wobble ensures that the star's immense heat is dynamically and fairly shared across the shifting latitudes over the passing orbital cycle. It orchestrates a grand, sweeping thermal dance that keeps the global climate constantly moving, breathing, and reinventing itself. Deep within the world's vast, salty basins, a profoundly powerful hidden circulation system is entirely powered by this uneven distribution of cosmic warmth. Because the tropical equator receives the most direct, brutal concentration of solar radiation, the surface waters there are continuously superheated and forced to expand. This massive injection of thermal energy creates a sprawling, buoyant pool of warm liquid that simply cannot remain stagnant. Let your breathing deepen and your limbs grow heavy, finding a peaceful synchronization with the slow, unstoppable movement of these planetary tides. As the heated equatorial waters naturally flow outward to seek equilibrium, they physically drag unimaginable volumes of liquid toward the freezing, sun-starved poles. Simultaneously, frigid, dense water from the icy latitudes sinks and violently rushes back along the ocean floor to fill the newly created void. This colossal global exchange operates as an infinitely looping aquatic conveyor belt, distributing trapped stellar heat to the darkest, coldest corners of the globe. It independently tempers the harsh coastal climates, driving the complex marine ecosystems that thrive within the shifting temperature gradients. The oceans essentially function as the planet's beating heart, relentlessly pumping borrowed solar warmth through its deepest, darkest veins. Certain forms of life possess an incredibly intimate, deeply vulnerable relationship with the shifting whims of this distant thermal radiator. Reptiles, amphibians, and countless crawling insects are completely stripped of the biological luxury of generating their own internal body heat. Instead, their very consciousness and physical mobility are entirely tethered to the rising and falling arc of the burning sky. In the chilled quiet of early morning, a lizard rests upon a dry branch, its metabolism sluggish, its limbs stiff, effectively trapped in a state of suspended animation. It must patiently wait for the invisible infrared waves to wash over its scaly skin, slowly driving the surrounding cold from its dormant muscles. As the solar energy steadily infiltrates its tiny body, the creature's blood warms, its heart rate climbs, and the vital spark of active life fully returns. Their entire daily existence is a masterful, high-stakes game of thermal management, continuously moving between deep shade and baking exposure to regulate their delicate internal engines. They are the truest, most literal children of the star, drawing their vitality directly from its fiery output. Without that distant warmth, they would remain forever frozen, statues patiently waiting for a dawn that never fully arrives. If we were to look closer at the invisible, rushing currents of air whipping through a narrow canyon, we would find the unmistakable fingerprint of solar heating. The atmosphere itself is inherently lazy, preferring to rest perfectly still unless violently provoked by an external agitating force. That force arrives daily in the form of differential heating, as the star's radiation continuously bakes certain patches of the varied terrain significantly faster than others. A dark, asphalt-covered city or a sprawling sandy desert will aggressively absorb the incoming energy, rapidly superheating the layer of air resting immediately above it. This hot air becomes intensely buoyant and rushes violently upward, creating a massive localized vacuum of low pressure near the ground. Instantly, the cooler, heavier air resting over a nearby ocean or a deeply shaded forest surges forcefully sideways to fill the newly created void. This horizontal rush of moving molecules is what we experience as a gentle, cooling breeze or a terrifying destructive gale. Every solitary gust of wind that rustles the high canopy or spins a towering turbine is merely the atmosphere desperately attempting to balance the uneven thermal load. We cannot directly see the heat, but we can profoundly feel its restless, invisible labour as it tirelessly stirs the breathing sky. Notice how the solid terrain stubbornly holds on to the fading memory of noon long after the creeping dusk has completely swallowed the valleys. Dense geological formations like granite boulders, sandstone cliffs, and paved cobblestones possess a remarkable, unseen ability to act as massive thermal batteries. Throughout the blazing afternoon, they silently absorb the relentless barrage of infrared radiation, locking the intense energy deep within their heavy, crystalline structures. Allow the muscles in your neck to soften, imagining that same soothing, heavy heat radiating upward to loosen any remaining tension in your own frame. As the night air sharply cools and the ambient temperature plummets, these sun-baked rocks begin to slowly, generously exhale their hoarded warmth back into the freezing darkness. This delayed thermal release creates surprisingly comfortable microclimates, offering a lingering, radiant embrace to nocturnal hunters and weary travellers seeking shelter. The stone effectively stretches the daylight, blurring the harsh boundary between the warm afternoon and the freezing midnight. It is a slow, deeply comforting geological respiration, inhaling the fierce stellar fire and softly breathing it back out as a gentle, sustaining comfort. Even in the pitch black, the profound influence of the star continues to quietly hum within the very bones of the landscape. High upon the jagged, towering peaks of the most intimidating mountain ranges, a delicate seasonal trigger is patiently waiting to be pulled. Throughout the dark winter, unfathomable volumes of frozen precipitation accumulate in massive silent glaciers and deeply packed snowfields. They sit completely dormant, a vast locked reservoir of potential life, firmly held hostage by the freezing low-angle radiation of the tilted months. As the planetary axis gracefully pivots back, the incoming solar rays strike the high altitudes with renewed concentrated vigour, slowly raising the ambient temperature. This returning warmth acts as a masterful silent conductor, gently coaxing the rigid crystalline ice to loosen its bonds and transition back into a flowing liquid. The frozen stasis abruptly breaks, giving birth to countless glittering rivulets that eagerly combine into rushing, powerful alpine streams. This orchestrated snowmelt is the vital, pulsing lifeblood of the sprawling, thirsty valleys stretching out far below. It times the delicate blossoming of alpine meadows and flawlessly replenishes the deep aquifers that sustain innumerable distant, unaware ecosystems. The star essentially acts as a massive cosmic thermostat, carefully regulating the seasonal release of the world's most precious, highly coveted liquid resource. Hovering quietly above the shifting continents, sprawling banks of condensed water vapour operate as a highly sophisticated global temperature regulation system. These drifting clouds are incredibly fickle, playing a dual, seemingly contradictory role in how the world manages its daily allowance of cosmic heat. During the glaring afternoon, their brilliant white tops act as massive floating mirrors, violently reflecting a significant portion of the incoming radiation right back into the void. This harsh deflection prevents the surface below from boiling over, offering a profound, cooling relief to the sweltering, sun-drenched plains. However, as the world plunges into darkness, those exact same atmospheric formations abruptly switch their behaviour, instantly becoming thick, insulating blankets. They aggressively trap the infrared energy that the ground attempts to radiate away, bouncing the escaping heat back down toward the soil. A perfectly clear, starry night will always feel significantly colder, as the accumulated warmth of the day slips away into space unimpeded. The clouds gracefully moderate the violent extremes, preventing the world from swinging wildly between a scorching oven and a frozen wasteland. They are the planet's delicate, breathable thermal layer, expertly managing the fragile balance of the inherited stellar heat. Consider the absolute, terrifying precision required for any of these delicate, interwoven thermal systems to function without instantly collapsing into utter ruin. Our spinning home sails through the chaotic void at a very specific, meticulously defined distance from the roaring central furnace. This narrow, incredibly fortunate pathway is uniquely positioned within the optimal temperate zone, a highly coveted ring of space where the radiation is neither completely destructive nor hopelessly weak. Drift just the slightest distance closer to the raging core, and the rising temperatures would violently boil away every ocean, turning the atmosphere into a suffocating, pressurized nightmare of runaway greenhouse gases. Drift merely a step further away, and the fading, diluted warmth would fail to prevent the oceans from freezing solid all the way down to the deepest, darkest trenches. We are suspended on a razor's edge of cosmic thermodynamics, continuously surfing the exact perfect wave of travelling heat. Sink deeper into your quiet space, resting securely in the knowledge that this delicate orbital balance has held firm and steady for countless uninterrupted epochs. This invisible, perfectly measured gap is the ultimate prerequisite for the existence of liquid water, the fundamental, non-negotiable medium for all complex biology. The specific, calculated emptiness between us and the fire is exactly what allows the incredible miracle of life to quietly flourish. Buried deeply beneath the dark, compacted layers of the fertile soil, innumerable tiny, dormant embryos are patiently listening for a very specific signal. A simple, unassuming seed possesses a tough, incredibly resilient outer shell, specifically evolved to endure the bitter, freezing hostility of a harsh winter. it rests in a state of suspended animation, entirely blind and deaf, yet acutely tuned to the shifting thermal profile of its damp underground world. As the spring days lengthen and the overhead radiation finally begins to penetrate the dark loam, the ambient temperature of the dirt slowly, incrementally rises. The seed's internal chemistry is highly sensitive, waiting for the exact required threshold of continuous warmth to be crossed before it dares to awaken. Once that specific critical thermal trigger is firmly established, a microscopic, violent cascade of biological activity is instantly unleashed within the hull. The protective casing fractures, and a tiny, desperate root pushes downward into the dark, while a fragile, pale shoot reaches upward toward the distant heat source. This massive global explosion of green rebirth is entirely commanded by the subtle, returning warmth of a star located vast distances away. It is the ultimate, quietest demonstration of cosmic power, gently whispering to the sleeping flora that it is finally safe to begin again. To begin again is to participate in an ancient celestial lineage that stretches back through the profound, silent corridors of deep time. Long before our specific planetary home had even begun to take shape, a colossal, freezing cloud of molecular gas and primordial dust drifted aimlessly through the interstellar void. Driven by the subtle, relentless tug of its own mass, this massive nebulous structure began a slow, inevitable collapse that would last for millions of years. Deep within this gathering darkness, the friction of colliding particles generated the first flickers of heat, signalling the birth of a new celestial era. This original dusty cradle contained everything necessary to eventually ignite the brilliant, sustaining fire we rely on today, swirling in a slow-motion whirlpool of potential. If we were to look closer at this period, we would see the raw materials of reality itself being compressed into a single, magnificent point of focus. It was a time of absolute cold and total darkness, yet it held the blueprint for every sunrise that would ever follow in our neighbourhood of the galaxy. This quiet accumulation of matter was the first step in a multi-billion-year journey toward the light. Every grain of that ancient dust carried the promise of the warmth you feel today. Surprisingly, the physical ingredients of our local star are not original to its birth, but are instead the recycled remnants of an even older generation of cosmic giants. Before our sun could ignite, previous stars had to complete their own epic life cycles, forging heavy elements deep within their blazing cores through billions of years of nuclear synthesis. When those ancient ancestors eventually reached the spectacular end of their existence, they exploded in violent supernovas, scattering their enriched remains across the galaxy. This structure of recycled matter provided the vital carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen that now swirl within the solar plasma and our own biological forms. We're effectively staring into a mirror of the deep past, witnessing the legacy of stars that died eons before our own was even a whisper in the dark. Every atom of gold in a wedding ring or iron in our blood was once cooked in the belly of a star that no longer exists. It is a comforting realization that we are made of the same ancient stuff that built the heavens themselves. This lineage of light ensures that the universe is never truly empty, but is instead a continuous, evolving story of transformation. We are the survivors of a grand celestial recycling project that has been active since the dawn of time. The transition from a chaotic, collapsing cloud to a stable, glowing sphere was not an instantaneous event, but a measured multi-million-year struggle for equilibrium. During its turbulent infancy, the young protostar flickered with irregular intensity as gravity fought to overcome the outward pressure of its own internal heat. It took countless millennia for the core to reach the critical temperatures required to sustain a steady, self-perpetuating nuclear reaction. Once that delicate balance was finally achieved, the sun settled into the calm, predictable burning phase that has defined the last several billion years of history. This long, arduous process of stabilization provided the unwavering foundation upon which all subsequent life could eventually be built. The violent flares of youth eventually gave way to the serene, golden constancy we experience today, marking the beginning of a truly ancient peace. If we were to look closer at this period, we would see the birth of a cosmic patience that still governs our skies. The star had to find its own centre, balancing its immense weight against its internal fire with perfect mathematical grace. This stability is the silent gift that allows our world to turn in peace and safety. For the vast majority of its existence, this massive sphere of plasma operates with a quiet, unwavering reliability that serves as the ultimate anchor for our entire reality. We currently find ourselves in the middle of a golden age, a multi-billion-year plateau where the star's energy output remains remarkably consistent and stable. This period of longevity is a rare and precious gift in a universe often characterized by violent, short-lived stellar events. Because the sun is neither too large nor too small, it possesses the perfect mass to burn its fuel at a slow, deliberate pace that allows for the slow evolution of complex ecosystems. This reliability is the fundamental reason our world can sustain the intricate, delicate web of life without fear of sudden extinction. It is a calm, steady presence that has watched over the world since the very beginning of biological time. Let your mind drift as you consider the sheer, timeless dependability of this central fire, providing a constant, life-giving background hum to the history of the world. Notice how your own breath follows a natural, steady rhythm, mirroring the calm persistence of the light outside. You are part of this stable system, resting securely in its ancient, unwavering care as you relax deeper into the present moment. Deep within the hidden interior, a slow, invisible transformation is taking place as the star quietly navigates the passage of the eons. Every second of every day, the relentless fusion of hydrogen atoms leaves behind a growing deposit of helium ash at the very centre of the core. While this gradual accumulation will eventually alter the star's destiny, it occurs at a pace so incredibly slow that it is entirely undetectable over the span of many human generations. On our timescale, the sun appears as an eternal, unchanging monument of light, unaffected by the shifting tides of history or the rise and fall of civilizations. This structure of slow-motion change reminds us that the cosmos operates on a clock much grander and more patient than our own. We are guests in a house that was built long ago and will stand for ages to come, regardless of the small, flickering moments of our lives. The accumulation of helium is simply the star's way of marking the deep time it has spent illuminating the void. It is a silent internal record of every second of light it has ever gifted to the worlds around it. This slow, steady progress is a testament to the immense power of patience in the natural world. Surprisingly, the early pioneers of life on our planet had to contend with a sun that was significantly less powerful than the brilliant sphere we see today. During the first billion years of its existence, the sun was actually about 30% dimmer, emitting a much softer and cooler radiance into the surrounding void. This period in the deep past presents a fascinating paradox, as the planetary surface remained warm enough for liquid water, despite the reduced solar output. A thick, protective atmosphere likely trapped the limited heat, allowing the first microscopic life forms to flourish under a pale, gentle sky. This historical resilience shows that the relationship between the star and its family is dynamic, adapting and shifting through the vast cycles of time. Even in its weaker youth, the star provided exactly enough energy to spark the long green journey of biology. We are the descendants of a world that learned to thrive in a much softer, more muted light. If we were to look closer at those ancient days, we would see a much different sky, yet the same central heart beating at the centre of it all. The star's growth in brightness has been a slow, steady climb, perfectly timed with the evolution of the world below. As the central star reached its full maturity, its immense gravitational pull began to act as a master architect, patiently organising the chaotic debris of its birth. In the early days of the planetary system, trillions of fragments of rock, ice, and dust swirled in a violent, disorganized disk around the new fire. The sun's massive weight slowly cleared these lanes, drawing in smaller particles and shepherding larger bodies into the orderly, circular orbits they occupy today. This sweeping cosmic cleaning process transformed a dangerous, crowded wilderness into a stable and predictable neighbourhood where worlds could safely grow. It is a profound, invisible architecture that holds the chaos of the void at bay, creating a sanctuary of light in the dark. The order we see in the night sky is the direct result of billions of years of this patient gravitational sculpting. Notice the absolute stillness of your body as you rest, anchored by the same silent, invisible force that keeps the entire system in its perfect, delicate place. Your very presence is a testament to this ancient organisation, a quiet harmony that has been maintained for eons. You're safely held in the embrace of a system that has had 4 billion years to perfect its dance. Maintaining a lazy, majestic spin through the cosmos, the sun does not rotate as a single solid object like a rocky planet would. Because it is composed entirely of fluid plasma, different latitudes of the star move at varying speeds in a complex liquid choreography. The equator completes a full revolution every 25 days, while the regions near the poles take significantly longer to make the same journey. This differential rotation creates a gentle, internal twisting of magnetic field lines, driving the rhythmic cycles that define the star's long-term behaviour. If we were to look closer at this gargantuan spinning globe, we would see a masterpiece of slow-motion fluid dynamics playing out on a scale that humbles the imagination. The star is not a rigid machine, but a living, breathing ocean of light that turns with its own internal logic. This slow, steady rotation is the heartbeat of the solar system, providing the underlying tempo for the entire celestial dance. It ensures that the heat and light are distributed with a majestic, unhurried grace, never rushing, never faltering. The sun's spin is a reminder of the slow, deliberate pace of the universe, a rhythm that invites us to slow down our own hurried lives and find our own centre. Compared to the volatile and short-lived giants that populate much of the galaxy, our star is a model of peaceful longevity and temperamental grace. Many other stars are born with so much mass that they burn through their fuel in a few million years, ending in spectacular, destructive outbursts that sterilize everything in their path. Others are tiny, angry dwarfs that lash out with frequent lethal flares of radiation, making the development of stable life nearly impossible. Our sun belongs to a fortunate class of stars that are just massive enough to be bright, yet small enough to remain calm and enduring for billions of years. This cosmic Goldilocks status is the fundamental reason we're here to wonder at its beauty in the first place. It is a quiet, reliable companion in a universe that can often be harsh and unpredictable, providing a sanctuary of calm in a restless galaxy. Sink deeper into the comfort of your surroundings as you reflect on this incredible cosmic luck. You're living under the protection of one of the most stable and peaceful objects in the known universe. This sense of security is the foundation upon which every moment of your life is built, a quiet promise of another tomorrow. The same fuel that powered the rise of the mountains and the evolution of the oceans will be there to witness whatever comes next in the long unfolding history of the cosmos. As you settle into a state of total relaxation, allow the sheer scale of this time to wash over you, providing a sense of eternal security. The star's future is as long as its past, a vast expanse of light that stretches out into the distant, quiet night. Into that distant, quiet night, the star does not merely send out silent rays of light, but also a continuous, invisible exhale of its own physical substance. High above the roiling surface, in the tenuous outer reaches of the solar atmosphere, the heat is so intense that atoms are ripped apart into a ghostly mist of charged protons and electrons. This superheated plasma cannot be held back by gravity, and it begins a slow, steady escape, streaming outward in every direction as a persistent celestial breeze. We call this the solar wind. an ethereal tide that flows across the blackness of space with a quiet, unrelenting force. It is the star's way of touching everything in its domain, reaching out with invisible fingers to stroke the distant worlds. This constant exhalation ensures that the space between the planets is never truly empty, but is instead filled with the living breath of the central fire. As this wind travels, it carries with it the magnetic signature of the sun, weaving a complex web of energy through the void. It moves at staggering speeds, yet it feels as gentle as a sigh when it encounters the far-flung reaches of our system. This invisible stream is the primary way the star interacts with the vacuum, extending its physical presence far beyond its glowing visible borders. This cosmic structure of moving particles does not simply fade away once it passes the inner planets, but continues its journey with remarkable persistence. The solar wind breezes past the gas giants and the icy minor worlds, extending its influence far beyond the lonely distant orbit of Pluto. It maintains its integrity across billions of miles, carving out a vast domain where the star remains the absolute and undisputed master of the environment. Even in these remote, freezing reaches, the solar wind acts as a constant reminder of the power sitting at the heart of the system. It creates a bridge between the central furnace and the dark Kuiper belt, ensuring that even the most isolated fragments of ice feel the sun's rhythmic pulse. This far-reaching influence is what defines the true size of the star's kingdom, a realm much larger than the visible orbits of the planets would suggest. Surprisingly, the universe has provided our terrestrial home with a sophisticated, invisible defense against this relentless stream of solar particles. Deep within the core of our world, a churning ocean of liquid iron generates a powerful and far-reaching magnetic field that extends thousands of miles into space. This magnetosphere acts as a gentle, flexible shield, gracefully deflecting the harshest gusts of the solar wind away from our atmosphere. Without this magnetic barrier, the constant bombardment of charged particles would slowly but surely strip away the very air we breathe, leaving the surface as barren and lifeless as the moon. The solar wind is diverted in a grand, sweeping arc, flowing around the planet like water around a smooth stone in a rushing stream. It is a masterpiece of cosmic protection, an invisible hug from the world itself that keeps the solar fire at a safe and manageable distance. As you lie still, allow yourself to feel the profound security of this silent global armor. Your body is resting on a world that is actively defending you from the raw power of the cosmos, providing a sanctuary of calm within a rushing solar gale. This invisible shield is the reason we can enjoy the warmth of the sun without being consumed by its more volatile physical emissions. If we were to look closer at the high latitudes of our world, we would witness the magnificent visual aftermath of this invisible cosmic struggle. When the trapped particles of the solar wind are finally channeled down toward the upper atmosphere along the magnetic field lines, they collide with air molecules in a spectacular display of kinetic energy. These collisions excite the gases, forcing oxygen and nitrogen to glow with an otherworldly brilliance that illuminates the long, dark polar nights. Shimmering curtains of neon green, deep violet, and ethereal crimson dance across the sky in a fluid, hypnotic motion that mirrors the shifting magnetic tides of the star itself. It is a celestial ballet, a silent visual symphony performed on a canvas of stars, reminding us of the hidden connections between our world and the sun. These lights are the star's signature, written in glowing characters across the high heavens for all who wait in the dark to see. Feel the steady support of the surface beneath you as you imagine these silent, colourful curtains waving high above the clouds. Your body is heavy and relaxed, safe within the protective embrace of a world that knows how to turn a cosmic storm into a masterpiece of light. The aurora is a reminder that even the most energetic solar events can be transformed into something of profound and peaceful beauty. Deep within the crown of the star lies a ghostly, shimmering secret that remains hidden from our view during the brightness of the day. The corona, a magnificent halo of superheated plasma, represents the outermost layer of the solar atmosphere, extending millions of miles into the dark. It is far hotter than the visible surface of the star itself, with temperatures reaching millions of degrees, yet its light is so faint that it is normally overwhelmed by the glare of the central disk. Witnessing the corona is a rare gift, a brief glimpse into the star's most private and beautiful layer. It serves as a reminder that the most profound aspects of our universe are often tucked away, waiting for the perfect moment of quiet to reveal themselves. This pearly halo is the final outer edge of the star's presence, a ghostly bridge between the fire and the deep. This structure of the outer atmosphere presents a fascinating mystery that challenges our earthly understanding of temperature and heat. Despite the corona's multi-million degree temperature, stepping into this region would not feel like entering a scorching oven. Because the plasma is so incredibly thin, there are very few particles to actually strike your skin and transfer their kinetic energy to your body. Notice how the invisible magnetic field lines loop and twist with fluid grace above the star's roiling surface, creating a complex and ever-shifting geometry. These lines act as invisible tracks, guiding the flow of superheated plasma into enormous glowing arches that can tower hundreds of thousands of miles into the sky. Known as coronal loops, these structures are the visible evidence of the star's internal magnetic heartbeat, a slow-motion dance of energy and matter. The plasma follows these curves with an elegant liquid precision, rising from the surface in a magnificent plume before gracefully descending back into the solar sea. It is a scene of staggering scale and beauty, a three-dimensional tapestry of fire woven by the unseen hands of magnetism. If we could see these fields directly, the sun would appear not as a smooth sphere, but as a wild, glowing thicket of golden loops and shimmering braids. As you sink deeper into relaxation, imagine these massive arches of light slowly turning and shifting in the solar breeze. Your own heart beats with a steady magnetic rhythm, a tiny echo of the grand celestial cycles that govern the star. You are part of this organized, energetic universe, held in a state of quiet balance by forces you can feel but never see. Surprisingly, the whole planetary system exists within a massive protective bubble that acts as a fortress against the rest of the galaxy. This gargantuan structure, known as the heliosphere, is inflated by the constant outward pressure of the solar wind, pushing back against the cold, high-energy radiation of deep interstellar space. It creates a sanctuary of solar influence that stretches far beyond the furthest reaches of the known planets, defining the true boundary of our home. We sail through the dark inside this glowing pocket of solar breath, protected by the very star that sustains us. This bubble is the ultimate safe haven, a cosmic nursery where the sun's influence creates a peaceful harbour in the middle of a turbulent galactic ocean. You can rest securely knowing that even the space between the stars is organised to protect the life that blooms within it. If we were to look closer at the wandering travellers of the solar system, we would see the solar wind's influence written in the elegant drift of comet tails. As an icy comet approaches the inner system, the sun's intense radiation begins to melt its frozen surface, creating a glowing cloud of gas and dust. This material is immediately and gracefully swept away from the sun, softly blown by the continuous pressure of solar light and the rushing stream of the solar wind. A comet's tail always points directly away from the star, regardless of the direction the comet is actually travelling. It is a visual compass, a shimmering indicator of the invisible currents that flow relentlessly outward from the centre. These long ethereal tails can stretch for millions of miles, painting the night sky with a fragile, fleeting beauty that highlights the star's quiet power. The comet is a passive participant in this solar dance, its very form shaped by the breath of the fire it circles. This interaction is a reminder of the subtle ways in which the star governs the behaviour of every object in its path. Even the smallest, coldest wanderers are touched and moved by the invisible atmosphere of the light. This pervasive care, extending from the heart of the star to the furthest reaches of the planetary system, finds its primary origin in an environment of unimaginable, crushing intensity. Deep within the very centre of the sphere, the weight of the entire solar mass presses inward with a ferocity that defies conventional description, creating a density that forces the fundamental building blocks of matter into a violent, intimate embrace. Under this immense pressure and searing heat, hydrogen atoms, which naturally repel one another with significant force, are squeezed so tightly together that they finally overcome their resistance and merge into helium. This process occurs billions of times every single second, serving as the primary engine of the universe and the silent heartbeat that sustains every living thing in the solar family. It is here, in the absolute centre, where the light we rely on is first forged from the raw, concentrated pressure of existence. The core serves as a sacred high-pressure laboratory where the star continuously converts its own substance into the future of the cosmos. Consider the profound silence of this labour, a gargantuan effort performed in the dark to ensure the world outside stays warm and bright. Surprisingly, this quiet alchemy operates on a principle of profound simplicity and terrifyingly efficient transformation. When those hydrogen atoms fuse into helium, the resulting nucleus is actually slightly lighter than the sum of its original individual parts. This tiny missing sliver of matter has not simply vanished into the void. Instead, it has been transformed directly into pure, radiant energy, released as a sudden and powerful burst of light and heat. A minuscule amount of physical mass is sacrificed to produce a staggering amount of power, a conversion so potent that it lights up the dark for billions of miles across the system. This transition from solid substance to ethereal radiation is the most efficient process in nature, a graceful turning of primordial dust into something divine. It is the ultimate source of all the warmth we have ever known, a continuous gifting of the star's own body to the vacuum. Every second, millions of tons of matter are traded for the light that will eventually wake the flowers on a distant blue world. If we were to look closer at the birth of a single photon, we would see that its exit from this central furnace is anything but a straight or easy path. Once generated in the heart of the core, this particle of light embarks on an arduous, zigzagging journey that will take it thousands of years to reach the visible surface. The interior is so incredibly dense with charged particles that the photon cannot travel more than a fraction of a millimetre before being absorbed and re-emitted in a random new direction. It bounces through a chaotic, microscopic maze, lost in a sea of thick plasma for countless generations of human history, from the dawn of civilization until the present moment. By the time it finally breaks free into the empty vacuum of space, it is a relic of an ancient collision, a traveller that has spent more time inside the star than our entire species has existed. This slow, patient migration ensures that the star's energy is released with a steady, measured grace rather than a sudden, destructive explosion. It is a long, internal meditation of light before it is finally allowed to touch the world. Feel the weight of your own body resting heavily and securely against the surface of the world, much like the layers of the star rest upon its core. Your breathing is slow and rhythmic, synchronized with the deep, steady processes occurring in the center of our sky as you drift further into relaxation. This structure at the center is surprisingly dense, packing material together with a force that would make solid lead seem as airy and light as a summer cloud. Despite being under such extreme pressure that the atoms are crushed together into a state of total compression, the core does not turn into a solid, unyielding stone. Instead, the intense heat keeps everything in a state of fluid plasma, a shimmering ocean of free electrons and naked nuclei that flows with a strange liquid beauty. It is a state of matter that is both incredibly heavy and remarkably dynamic. A thick, superheated soup that remains perfectly mobile and responsive. This density is exactly what allows the nuclear furnace to burn with such fierce and sustained intensity, providing the necessary confinement for the fusion reaction to continue indefinitely. It is a realm where the laws of the surface are completely inverted, and the heaviest matter behaves like the most agile liquid. Within this pressurized sea, the star finds its strength, holding itself together through the sheer weight of its own magnificent ambition. Deep within the roiling core, other ghostly inhabitants are born alongside the light, particles so small and elusive that they almost seem to belong to a separate reality altogether. These tiny, nearly massless particles, called neutrinos, are a byproduct of the fusion process, yet unlike photons, they possess absolutely no interest in the dense plasma around them. They do not bounce, zigzag, or slow down. Instead, they slip out of the core at nearly the speed of light, passing through the vast bulk of the star as if it were made of thin, transparent air. Trillions of these invisible messengers are currently streaming through your body and the entire planet beneath you, passing straight through the Earth completely unnoticed and without leaving a single trace. They are the silent witnesses to the solar engine, carrying the immediate news of the core's activity directly into the void without the 1,000-year delay of the light. This invisible rain is a constant, ghostly presence that highlights the staggering transparency of our solid world to the deep secrets of the star. They connect you to the center of the sun in a way that is direct, immediate, and entirely silent. Surprisingly, the universe has balanced this raging nuclear furnace with a stability that is nothing short of miraculous. The star exists in a state of perfect hydrostatic equilibrium, a delicate and eternal tug-of-war between two titanic, opposing forces that have negotiated a peace lasting for eons. Gravity, the inexorable pull of the star's own massive weight, tries to crush the core into a single point of infinite density. Simultaneously, the outward pressure generated by the intense heat of nuclear fusion pushes back with equal and opposite ferocity, preventing the star from collapsing under its own gravity. If the core burns too hot, the pressure increases and the star expands slightly, which naturally cools the reaction and restores the balance. This self-regulating mechanism ensures that the sun does not explode or fade away, but remains a steady, reliable source of light for billions of years. It is a masterpiece of cosmic engineering, a roaring fire that acts as its own perfect internal thermostat. Notice the stillness in your limbs and the quiet ease in your mind as you contemplate this massive, self-sustaining harmony. You're supported by a universe that finds balance even in the heart of its most violent fires, and you're safe within that order. The sheer volume of energy produced in the core during a single second is so vast that it dwarfs the combined energy output of all human history and endeavour. Every fire ever lit, every gallon of fuel ever burned, and every watt of electricity ever generated by our species is a mere flickering candle compared to one heartbeat of the solar core. This staggering power is radiated outward in every direction, saturating the solar system with a level of radiation that is almost impossible for the human mind to quantify. It is the fundamental fuel for every storm on Jupiter, every wave on Earth, and every chemical reaction in the distant, icy reaches of the outer planets. This gargantuan output is the only reason the dark of space is habitable at all, a generous and unrelenting fountain of vitality in a cold universe. We live our lives in the overflow of this central well, drawing our existence from a source that is essentially infinite on any human scale. It is a bounty of power that asks for nothing in return, a silent and continuous gift to the dark. If you were to descend into this central furnace, you would find that it is entirely silent, a realm of absolute crushing stillness despite the energetic violence occurring at the atomic level. Because the core is so incredibly dense, the roaring shockwaves that would otherwise create a cacophony are instantly dampened, transformed into slow, rolling vibrations that move through the plasma like ripples on a heavy pond. The matter is packed so tightly that sound cannot travel as it does through the air. Instead, the entire core rings like a massive low-frequency bell. These deep seismic pulses ripple through the solar interior, carrying the news of the core's activity to the outer layers in a rhythmic, comforting hum. It is a silent thunder, a powerful vibration that moves the star from the inside out without ever making a sound that could be heard by an ear. This quietude in the heart of power is a reminder that the most significant events in the cosmos often happen in total, heavy silence. The greatest movements are often those that make the least noise. Notice how the outer layers of the star serve as a thick glowing blanket, keeping the fierce central reactor perfectly insulated from the absolute cold of space. The core is the only part of the star where fusion actually occurs, and the hundreds of thousands of miles of gas above it act as a massive thermal reservoir. This protective covering traps the heat, forcing it to move slowly toward the surface through the radiative and convective zones over vast spans of time. Without this heavy insulation, the core would lose its heat too quickly to maintain the pressures needed for fusion, and the solar fire would simply go out like a candle in a breeze. The surface we see from our world is merely the cooling edge of this grand structure, the place where the energy finally makes its escape into the void. It is a beautifully designed vessel, a celestial hearth that holds its fire close to its heart so that the worlds outside can stay warm. This containment is an act of preservation, a way for the star to nurse its fire for the long journey of the future. Allow your breath to become even more shallow and effortless, as if you are being gently insulated by the warmth of your own rest. Your body feels like a vessel of quiet energy, perfectly contained and peaceful in the dark of the evening. Continuing in this dark of the evening, where the body feels perfectly contained and peaceful, we find that the light itself is governed by a timing far grander and more patient than our own. Every 11 years, the star undergoes a profound and systematic shifting of its internal magnetic fields, a slow-motion transformation that dictates the long-term intensity of its behavior. This structure of magnetic energy is not static, but behaves like a massive liquid clock, winding and unwinding its invisible tension with a rhythmic, predictable grace. Deep within the convective layers, the fluid plasma twists and tangles these magnetic field lines, building toward a peak of activity before slowly releasing that stress back into the void. This rhythmic cycle is the fundamental tempo of the solar system, a long-term pulse that ensures the star never remains in one state for too long. It is a patient, predictable breathing that has continued for billions of years, providing a sense of deep chronological order to the history of our sky. This cycle represents the star's own internal season, a decade-long summer of activity followed by a decade-long winter of quiet. It is a reminder that even the most massive and powerful objects in the cosmos are bound by the laws of rhythm and time. As you settle into the stillness of your own moment, imagine this vast 11-year wave of energy slowly cresting and falling far above the world. Surprisingly, the surface of this brilliant furnace is occasionally punctuated by cool, dark islands of magnetic intensity that drift across the glowing plasma like solitary wanderers. These sunspots mark the locations where the internal magnetic field lines have become so tightly knotted and tangled that they temporarily break through the visible surface. This intense magnetic pressure acts as a barrier, preventing the scorching heat from the interior from rising to the surface, resulting in regions that are significantly cooler than their fiery surroundings. While they appear as black blemishes against the blinding glare of the star, they are actually radiating with a light that would be brighter than the full moon if seen in isolation. They are regions of immense tension and focus, standing as silent monuments to the invisible forces churning beneath the golden sea. This structure of cooling and tension provides a visual map of the star's internal struggle to maintain its balance. As these dark features bloom and fade, they signal the shifting health and energy of the magnetic cycle, appearing more frequently during times of peak activity. They are the visible signature of a star that is deeply alive, constantly reacting to the invisible currents of its own power. Observe the way these spots move with the star's rotation, a slow and majestic procession of magnetic shadow across an ocean of light. If we were to look closer at these seemingly tiny specks, the sheer scale of their existence would dwarf the entire scope of human geography. A single sunspot, which appears as a mere dot on the solar disk, is often several times larger than the entire planet Earth, representing a storm of magnetic energy that could swallow our world without effort. These are not merely patches of colour, but gargantuan slow-motion vortices of plasma swirling within a magnetic cage of incredible strength. They behave like massive cooling cyclones, where the matter is held in a state of suspended animation by the sheer power of the field lines. Within these dark basins, the plasma is channeled and directed in a complex liquid geometry that defies the chaotic movements of the surrounding surface. This gargantuan scale reminds us that our local star is a laboratory of physics occurring at a magnitude that humbles the most ambitious human projects. Feel the profound peace of your own smallness within this vast system, resting in a world that is dwarfed by the smallest features of its parent star. Your body is a tiny, precious sanctuary, safely tucked away on a planet that orbits far from these immense magnetic abysses. The realization of this scale does not diminish our significance, but rather highlights the incredible luck of our existence within such a monumental neighbourhood. At the height of each 11-year cycle, the star achieves a feat of cosmic transformation that would be catastrophic for a solid world, but is a natural rhythm for a fluid sun. The star's magnetic poles, the very foundation of its invisible orientation, physically trade places in a grand and predictable reversal of polarity. What was once the magnetic north becomes the south, and the south becomes the north, as the internal dynamo completely reorganizes itself from the inside out. Imagine the massive fluid transition of a whole world's magnetic soul, a slow-motion somersault occurring in the heart of the solar fire. This reversal is a testament to the flexibility and resilience of the star, showing that even the most fundamental forces can change in a cycle of growth and renewal. It is a graceful shedding of the old magnetic skin to make room for the new energy of the future. Deep within the quiet troughs of the cycle, there come periods of remarkable stillness known as solar minimums, where the star's surface becomes a smooth and featureless ocean. During these times, sunspots vanish entirely, and the turbulent magnetic activity that drives solar flares and storms settles into a deep meditative slumber. The star appears as a pristine, unblemished sphere of light, radiating with a constancy that feels eternal and undisturbed. This period of minimum activity is the ultimate resting state of the star, a time of profound visual purity that masks the slow rebuilding of magnetic tension deep below. The atmosphere of the sun cools slightly, and the solar wind becomes a steady, predictable stream, offering the surrounding planets a decade of celestial peace. This structure of quietude is an essential part of the solar rhythm, providing a necessary interval of recovery between the energetic outbursts of the maximum. Surprisingly, the silent history of these distant solar rhythms is perfectly preserved right here in the living heart of our world's ancient forests. Trees, as they grow year by year, absorb carbon from the atmosphere to build their sturdy wooden rings, and they inadvertently record the fluctuating energy of the sun in their very fibre. Subtle changes in the concentrations of carbon isotopes within these rings serve as a chemical diary, marking the ebb and flow of solar activity across the centuries. When the sun is exceptionally active, its magnetic field shields the Earth from the cosmic rays that produce these specific isotopes, resulting in a distinct signature within the wood. If the star enters a long period of quiet, the signal increases, allowing scientists to look back through thousands of years of solar history by simply reading the rings of an old bristlecone pine. This physical connection between the star and the soil demonstrates how the most distant cosmic cycles are woven into the biological fabric of our world. It is a comforting thought that the trees standing in our yards are silent witnesses to the star's long-term breathing, carrying the memory of past centuries in their slow, wooden growth. This structure of biological recording bridges the gap between the scale of a star and the scale of a seed. Your own existence is part of this same interconnected web, a living record of the energy that has reached our planet across the vastness of space. If we were to listen to the star through the ears of science, we would find that the entire sun is subtly pulsing and vibrating like a massive low-frequency bell. These vibrations are caused by the turbulent movements of the convective zone, where rising and falling plasma creates pressure waves that travel throughout the solar interior. Because the star is a contained gaseous sphere, these waves become trapped, bouncing off the surface and the core to create a complex system of standing sound waves. This field of study, known as heliosismology, allows us to peer into the hidden depths of the star by analysing the tiny ripples these vibrations cause on the visible surface. The sun rings with millions of different tones simultaneously, creating a deep and continuous hum that never leaves its own atmosphere, because space is a vacuum that cannot carry sound. This internal seismic activity is the true voice of the star, a constant and energetic resonance that defines its physical structure. Imagine the star as a gargantuan instrument, playing a song of physics that has no audience but the vacuum of the deep. This structure of sound is a reflection of the star's internal health and organisation, a rhythmic vibration that sustains its identity. Within this massive ringing sphere, the energy of the core is translated into a mechanical pulse that moves the world from the inside out. These internal seismic waves ripple across the glowing surface in a continuous, mesmerizing cosmic heartbeat that can be measured with incredible precision. While the surface appears as a chaotic sea of boiling plasma from a distance, it is actually organized by these deep rhythmic oscillations that cause the photosphere to rise and fall by small amounts. This gentle pulsing occurs on a variety of timescales, from a few minutes to several hours, creating a complex and beautiful pattern of movement. This structure of vibration is what keeps the solar atmosphere in a state of constant dynamic tension, preventing it from ever becoming truly stagnant. It is the physical manifestation of the star's immense energy being channeled into a rhythmic, orderly motion that governs the entire sphere. We can think of the sun as a living, breathing entity whose pulse is the primary driver of the physical conditions within our planetary neighbourhood. Let your own heartbeat become a focal point of your relaxation, a small and steady rhythm that connects you to the grand oscillations of the star. You are part of a universe that is fundamentally rhythmic, where everything from the smallest atom to the largest sun follows a pulse of existence. This cosmic heartbeat is a soothing assurance of the continuity of life and the persistence of the light. Notice the subtle and invisible way the Earth's own outer atmosphere reacts in perfect synchronization with the shifting phases of the solar cycle. During the height of solar activity, the star emits a much higher volume of intense ultraviolet light, which is eagerly absorbed by the gases in our planet's upper thermosphere. This massive injection of high-energy radiation causes the atmospheric molecules to heat up and move faster, resulting in a significant expansion of the entire atmospheric envelope. The world literally grows larger and fluffier during solar maximum, reaching further out into the vacuum of space before contracting back down during the quiet years of the minimum. This gentle ebb and flow of our planetary shell is a direct biological-like response to the star's magnetic breathing, a rhythmic stretching of our world's boundaries. This structure of expansion and contraction influences the orbits of satellites and the behaviour of the ionosphere, proving that the sun's influence is a physical hand that shapes our world every day. We are living on a breathing planet that is intimately tied to the heartbeat of its parent star, expanding and contracting in a silent dance of energy. This invisible interaction is a reminder that we are never truly separate from the environment of the sun, even when we feel safely tucked beneath the clouds. The atmosphere itself is a sensitive instrument, playing its own part in the grand, rhythmic symphony of the solar system. Ultimately, this long-term rhythm of magnetic shifts, sunspot cycles, and seismic pulses offers a soothing reminder that even the most massive celestial bodies follow a delicate and predictable order. The universe is not a chaotic or random collection of events, but a highly organised system where even the most violent fires are governed by the laws of cycle and return. This profound sense of cosmic timing provides a foundation of security for all life, ensuring that the light will always follow the dark and the active will always be balanced by the quiet. This structure of order is what allows us to look toward the future with a sense of calm and expectation, knowing that the rhythms of the heavens are steady and unwavering. The stars' cycles are a master plan of persistence, a decade-by-decade demonstration of the power of regularity in a vast and changing cosmos. We can find a deep peace in this predictability, resting in a system that has had billions of years to perfect its timing. As you drift into the deepest layers of your rest, carry this realization of solar order with you into your dreams. You're part of a magnificent and well-timed universe, where every heartbeat of the star is a promise of continuity. The rhythm of the light is the rhythm of your own soul, a steady and enduring peace that will carry you through the night. This enduring peace is anchored by a titanic physical presence that defies any terrestrial comparison of scale or power. Within the sprawling boundary of our planetary neighbourhood, a single, central object possesses such overwhelming dominance that it effectively constitutes the entirety of the local universe. If we were to gather all the planets, their hundreds of moons, the vast rings of the gas giants, and every stray asteroid and comet, their combined weight would still be a mere insignificant fraction of the Sun's total mass. It is the heavy golden heart around which everything else is merely a dusting of cosmic debris, a singular anchor that provides the gravitational ballast for the entire system. This structure of absolute mass is what creates the deep, unyielding well of space-time that keeps our world from flying off into the void. We're held in place by a force that is as gentle as a tether, yet as strong as the foundations of the galaxy itself. Surprisingly, the universe manages this immense weight through an invisible, intricate net of gravitational influence that smoothly guides every celestial body on its path. Instead of sharp, jagged movements or chaotic drift, the planets follow peaceful, elliptical tracks that have been refined by billions of years of silent orbital mechanics. This gravitational webbing is not a rigid cage, but a flexible, reaching force that allows for a graceful, swaying motion as the planets breathe in their orbits. This invisible geometry ensures that no two worlds ever collide, maintaining a perfect rhythmic spacing that allows life to flourish in the temperate zones. As the Earth glides along this predetermined curve, it does so with a fluid elegance that mirrors the movement of a leaf on a calm, deep river. We are participants in a grand gravitational choreography that is managed by the central star with absolute mathematical precision. Consider for a moment the profound and terrifying vulnerability that would exist without this central, stabilizing anchor to hold us in its grasp. If the sun were to suddenly vanish, the Earth would not simply stop, but would immediately break its tether and begin a lonely, irreversible journey into the freezing dark of the Milky Way. We would become a rogue world, a silent and lightless wanderer drifting aimlessly through the interstellar abyss without a home or a destination. Notice the weight of your own body as it rests securely in this moment, anchored to the floor and the planet by the very same forces that keep the globe in its orbit. Your breath is a slow, rhythmic tide, safe and protected within a system that has never once let go of its reaching gravitational hand. This sense of being tethered is the ultimate security, a cosmic insurance policy that has kept our world in the light for eons. The sun itself is far from a stationary object, but is instead a traveller on its own grand and magnificent journey through the wider galaxy. Deep within the centre of the Milky Way lies a supermassive black hole, a point of infinite density and gravity around which our entire star system gracefully revolves. Our local star, carrying its entire family of planets in tow, is currently sweeping through a massive spiral orbit that takes hundreds of millions of years to complete just a single circuit. We're essentially moving through a neighbourhood of other stars, passing through different regions of the galactic disk with a majestic, unhurried poise. This galactic dance is so vast in scale that the constellations we see tonight are merely a snapshot of a much larger, shifting arrangement. This structure of nested orbits reveals that even the anchor of our system is part of a much larger, swirling community of light. Surprisingly, we are currently hurtling through this galactic void at speeds that would shatter any human concept of velocity, yet the motion remains entirely imperceptible to our senses. As the Sun orbits the galactic centre, it pulls the entire solar family along at over 500,000 miles per hour, a pace so fast it could cross the entire Earth in a matter of seconds. Yet, because every object in our system is moving together in perfect synchronized harmony, we feel only the most absolute and profound stillness. It is as if we are riding on a massive, gently spinning carousel that moves so smoothly we can only detect the motion by looking at the distant, unchanging stars. This imperceptible journey is a testament to the fluid grace of the universe, where the most extreme movements are experienced as a deep and abiding rest. Allow your muscles to soften further into this stillness, trusting in the steady, silent rush of our shared passage through the deep. Within the outer reaches of the star's domain, a countless multitude of asteroids and comets participate in a delicate, high-stakes dance of balance and tug. These leftover fragments of the system's birth are locked into stable pathways by the star's steady, unwavering gravitational influence, preventing them from drifting into chaotic or destructive trajectories. Some are held in the asteroid belt between the inner and outer planets, while others are slung far into the distant reaches, only to return on long, lonely loops of ice and dust. The Sun acts as a cosmic shepherd, using its gravity to gently organise these wilder elements into a predictable and orderly arrangement. This structure of containment is what keeps the inner planets safe from a constant rain of debris, creating a sanctuary of stability where life could eventually take root. Every wandering comet and drifting rock is a silent witness to the star's far-reaching and meticulous control over the matter in its care. The precise and measured distance of each planet from the central fire was not a matter of random chance, but was sculpted over billions of years of silent gravitational negotiation. In the early, chaotic days of the solar system, the shifting tides of the Sun's gravity pushed and pulled the developing worlds until they settled into the stable, resonant orbits they occupy today. This long-term sculpting process ensured that each planet found its own unique niche, balanced between the Sun's pull and its own outward momentum. If we were to look closer at this orbital architecture, we would find a masterpiece of spatial organisation where every world is exactly where it needs to be for the system to remain in harmony. The Earth was placed in the fortunate middle, neither too close to be scorched nor too far to be frozen, a result of eons of gravitational fine-tuning. This delicate arrangement is the foundation of our planetary peace, a geometric legacy that has been handed down through the ages. Even at the very furthest edges of the star's influence, far beyond the reach of the most distant gas giants, a massive shell of icy bodies remains gently held by the Sun's reaching gravity. This Oort cloud represents the absolute frontier of our solar system, a vast and silent reservoir of potential comets that encircles the planets in a protective frozen sphere. Though these objects are thousands of times further from the Sun than the Earth, they still feel the subtle, persistent tug of the central anchor. This structure of distant influence is a reminder that the star's presence is not limited to the bright visible centre, but extends into the deepest and darkest reaches of the void. It is a quiet, ghostly embrace that holds the very fringes of our neighbourhood together against the pull of neighbouring stars. We are part of a system that is incredibly vast, yet every single piece of it is connected by an invisible, gravitational thread to the same golden heart. This gravitational embrace extends so far across the emptiness of space that it takes light over a year to reach its outermost tenuous edges. We often think of the solar system as a small and intimate place, but its true physical extent is measured in the multi-trillion-mile reach of the star's primary influence. Within this enormous volume of space, the sun's gravity is the dominant force, a silent and unwavering power that defines the boundaries of our home. It is a realm of absolute quiet and profound distance, where the sun appears as nothing more than a particularly bright and brilliant star, yet it still dictates the motion of every stray particle of ice. This reach is a testament to the staggering power of the anchor, a force that transcends the limits of light and time to hold its domain in a state of permanent unity. Relax into the scale of this protection, knowing that you are part of a system whose influence is as vast as the stars themselves. Ultimately, we must realize that we are essentially passengers on a brilliant glowing ship, sailing through the interstellar void, tethered to a source of energy that provides everything we need to survive. The sun is not just a light in the sky, but is the vessel that carries us, the engine that drives us, and the anchor that keeps us from being lost in the deep. Our entire existence is a shared journey across the galaxy, a long-distance voyage on a planetary deck that is forever warmed and illuminated by the same central fire. This realization brings a final deep sense of belonging and security, as we understand that we are never truly alone or adrift in the vastness of space. We are part of a well-organized and stable expedition, moving through the cosmos with a purpose and a direction that has been established for billions of years. The star is our guide, our guardian, and our home, a celestial anchor that will continue to hold us in its peaceful, radiant embrace for all the tomorrows to come. This radiant embrace for all the tomorrows to come is a promise kept by a continuous downpour of energy that defines the very boundaries of the possible for every living thing. Every calorie of heat moving through your veins and every spark of thought currently firing within your mind originally descended from a solitary beam of travelling sunlight. The plants in the fields and the trees in the forest act as master alchemists, catching high-speed photons and locking their kinetic vibrance into the solid, enduring chemical bonds of organic matter. This biological translation represents the primary wealth of our world, a massive and unending inheritance from the central fire that fuels the entire complex food chain from the soil to the sky. Whether a creature grazes on sun-drenched grass or hunts those that do, it is merely consuming a highly refined and concentrated form of liquid starlight. We are, in the most literal sense, solar-powered entities navigating a landscape of recycled radiation, drawing our strength from a bank of energy located 93 million miles away. Everything you see around you, from the wood of your chair to the fibers of your clothing, is a physical storage of the star's generosity. The light is not just something we see, it is the very material from which our biological reality is woven. As you rest in this moment, consider that the very power allowing your heart to beat was once a photon racing through the void. Deep within the rolling turquoise waves of the global ocean, a massive and silent workforce of microscopic algae carries out a labour that sustains every breath taken on land. These tiny floating organisms, known as phytoplankton, are far more prolific than all the world's rainforests combined, acting as the primary lungs of the planetary body. They drift on the sunlit surface currents, capturing the star's brilliance to drive a chemical reaction that splits water molecules and releases pure oxygen into the atmosphere. This structure of invisible respiration provides the majority of the air that fills your lungs at this very second, a direct gift from the aquatic pastures of the deep. Without the sun's constant activation of these microscopic engines, the oxygen levels of the world would slowly dwindle, rendering the planet silent and still. The star does not just provide the light to see, it provides the very chemistry required for the breath of life to exist at all. Notice the profound interconnection between the distant fire, the deep sea, and the rhythm of your own chest as you inhale and exhale. Every intake of air is a communion with the solar-powered oceans, a cycle of energy that began as a nuclear collision in the core and ended as a vital spark in your bloodstream. You are breathing the transformed energy of the star, a continuous and life-giving exchange that never ceases. This structure of ancient, stored vitality we call fossil fuels is in reality nothing more than a vast reservoir of buried prehistoric sunshine trapped by the greenery of a forgotten world. Millions of years ago, vast forests and dense swamps soaked up the relentless solar radiation, compressing that energy into the carbon-rich tissues of prehistoric plants and early marine life. When these organisms died and were buried under layers of sediment, the intense heat and pressure of the Earth's crust slowly distilled that solar energy into the dense liquids and solids we utilize today. Surprisingly, every time a flame is lit or an engine hums to life, we are releasing the concentrated radiance of a summer afternoon that took place eons before the first human walked the world. We are essentially burning the preserved legacy of an ancient sun, drawing upon a thermal bank account that took millions of years of careful solar deposits to accumulate. This deep time perspective reveals that even our modern industrial landscape is entirely built upon the borrowed light of the deep past. It is a hauntingly beautiful realization that our current world is powered by the ghosts of old sunlight, long hidden in the dark of the ground. The star's influence is so enduring that its energy can wait in the soil for millions of seasons, only to be reclaimed and utilized by a generation it never knew. We live our lives in a space where the past and present are joined by the thread of travelling light. Surprisingly, the human body does not just passively receive the star's light, but actively engages in a complex biological partnership to synthesize the essential building blocks of health. When the sun's gentle rays strike the surface of your skin, a specific wavelength of ultraviolet radiation triggers a sophisticated chemical transformation within your own cells. This interaction allows the body to produce vitamin D, a vital hormone that regulates everything from the strength of your bones to the resilience of your immune system. Feel the weight of your hands and the solid support of the surface beneath you, recognizing that your physical structure is being maintained by this invisible solar alchemy. This process is a rare example of a nutrient that we do not need to eat, but can instead breathe in through the very surface of our being. We're designed to be in direct physical contact with the radiance of our sky, requiring its touch to maintain the integrity of our internal systems. The star acts as a silent physician, providing a daily dose of biological stability through the simple medium of a beam of light. This intimate connection highlights the fact that we are not just observers of the sun, but are active participants in its energetic output. Your health is a direct reflection of the star's ability to reach out and touch the chemistry of your life. If we were to look closer at the internal machinery of the human mind, we would find a master clock that is flawlessly synchronized to the rising and falling of the central fire. This circadian rhythm is a deeply encoded biological program that uses the specific blue light of the morning sky as a signal to reset the body's internal timing for the day ahead. As the light enters your eyes, it bypasses the visual centers and goes directly to a tiny region of the brain that governs the release of hormones, core body temperature, and the cycle of wakefulness. When the sun eventually dips below the horizon and the world plunges into darkness, the brain detects the absence of light and begins to prepare the body for the restoration of sleep. This structure of biological timing ensures that our internal lives remain in perfect harmony with the external world, providing a sense of grounding and predictability to our existence. It is a quiet, neurological tether that binds our consciousness to the rotation of the planet and the position of the star. Notice the quiet transition toward relaxation in your own mind, as if your internal clock is acknowledging the soft evening shadows. Your body understands the language of the sun and the dark, responding with a natural desire for rest as the day concludes. You're resting in a state of biological alignment, guided by the same solar signals that have governed life for millions of years. Notice how the sun acts as a gargantuan, invisible engine of lift, reaching down to the surface of the world's oceans and gently pulling the liquid into the sky. Through the quiet process of evaporation, the star's thermal energy agitates the water molecules until they break free from the salty depths, rising as invisible vapor to form the sprawling white mountains of the clouds. This massive solar-powered distillation process strips away the salt and impurities, creating a pure and life-giving resource that is then transported by the wind. When these clouds eventually cool and release their moisture, they deliver the gift of fresh water to the interior of continents, nourishing the vast forests and thirsty plains that would otherwise be barren deserts. The entire water cycle is a masterpiece of solar engineering, a way for the star to move the oceans across the land and sustain the green life of the planet. Every raindrop that falls and every river that flows is a direct result of the star's relentless lifting heat. The cycle is a continuous circulating thermal bath that keeps the world hydrated and alive, all powered by the same fire that lights the morning. As you relax, imagine the massive, silent movement of water being lifted into the heavens by the gentle touch of the sun. It is a graceful and necessary labour that ensures the world remains a lush and hospitable home for all. Deeply encoded within the brains of wandering creatures across the globe is a sophisticated and flawless navigation system that uses the sun as its primary celestial compass. From the tiny monarch butterfly to the massive grey whale, animals perform incredible feats of long-distance migration by calculating the precise angle and position of the star in the sky. They can account for the passage of time and the shifting arc of the sun, maintaining a steady and unwavering course across featureless oceans and vast, trackless wildernesses. Let your breath be a steady anchor, a rhythmic companion to the deep and intuitive knowledge that guides these travellers through the dark. This internal solar mapping is a testament to the sun's role as the ultimate navigator of our world, a steady point of reference that never fails to show the way. Even on cloudy days, many creatures can detect the polarization of the light, seeing the hidden position of the star through the greyest of veils. The sun is the central lighthouse for the entire biosphere, a fixed and brilliant guide that ensures no traveller is ever truly lost. This structure of celestial guidance connects the movement of life on Earth to the mechanics of the heavens in a beautiful and practical synergy. We live in a world that is not just lit by the sun, but is physically and intuitively organised by its presence. The star's reach into the absolute darkness of the ocean's deepest trenches extends even miles below where a single ray of light could ever hope to penetrate. In the sunlit surface waters, a thriving community of life constantly grows, dies, and decays, creating a continuous rain of organic debris known as marine snow. This falling bounty of nutrients slowly drifts down through the water column, taking weeks to reach the freezing high-pressure world of the abyss. For the bizarre and ancient creatures that haunt the lightless seafloor, this descending snow is the primary source of their existence, an indirect and vital inheritance from the sun above. They live on the scattered, recycled energy of the star, proving that the solar influence is so thorough that even the deep dark is sustained by its overflow. This vertical transfer of vitality bridges the gap between the blazing surface and the silent, crushing depths, creating a unified biological system that covers the entire planet. The star's generosity is so immense that it spills over the edges of the light, reaching into the hidden corners where the sun is only a legend. This realization brings a sense of profound continuity, knowing that the energy of the fire is everywhere, even where it cannot be seen. The abyss is not a separate world, but the final quiet destination of the star's travelling light. This cosmic architecture is revealed in the startling truth that even the tiny amount of energy required for you to blink your eye was originally forged in the nuclear heart of the sun. The electrical signals travelling through your nerves and the microscopic contraction of your eyelids are powered by the breaking of chemical bonds in the food you've eaten. Those bonds were formed by plants that captured the energy of solar fusion, essentially storing the power of a distant explosion for your personal use. Every movement of your body, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is a direct application of the star's ancient and overwhelming power. You're not just a resident of the solar system, but are a living, walking extension of the sun's own energetic output, utilizing its recycled radiation to perceive and interact with the world. This connection makes every action a sacred participation in the life of the star, a small and beautiful echo of the fire at the center of the sky. As you lie still, contemplate the incredible journey that this specific energy has taken to eventually find its home in the movement of your own eyes. It has traveled across millions of miles and through millions of years just to provide you with the vitality needed for this single quiet moment. You're a vessel of cosmic fire, a living mirror of the star's relentless and enduring power. Ultimately, the entire existence of every breathing being on this blue world is a direct and beautiful biological reflection of the steady, unwavering output of this celestial furnace. We are not separate from the sun, but are its primary expression in the realm of biology, a way for the star's energy to become conscious, mobile, and aware of its own majesty. The green of the forest, the blue of the sea, and the warmth of your own skin are all different ways that the same central light has chosen to manifest itself in the cold matter of space. Feel the profound peace of this realization, allowing any remaining tension to dissolve into the absolute certainty of your belonging to this radiant system. You're a part of the star's long and magnificent story, a small but vital piece of a puzzle that has been coming together for over 4 billion years. The sun's embrace is not just a thermal touch, but is a fundamental, life-defining reality that sustains you from the inside out. Rest in the comfort of this eternal connection, knowing that the light that built the world is the same light that resides within you at this very moment. You are safe, you are whole, and you are forever part of the symphony of colours and warmth that defines our home in the deep. The star will continue to burn, the world will continue to turn, and you will always be a child of the light, sleeping in the peaceful, radiant embrace of all the tomorrows to come. This peaceful, radiant embrace of all the tomorrows to come eventually yields to a new, more majestic phase of existence in the staggering distance of the deep future. Billions of years from now, as the primary hydrogen fuel in the core finally begins to dwindle, the star will undergo a grand and natural transformation into a massive red giant. Instead of a violent collapse or a sudden extinction, it will begin a gentle and steady swelling, its outer atmosphere expanding outward with a slow-motion grace that will permanently redefine the local landscape of the planetary system. The familiar yellow disk we know today will grow into a colossal crimson sphere, cooling slightly at its surface while its inner layers reach toward the orbits of the inner worlds. This expansion is a predictable biological-like stage in the life of a sun, a necessary transition as it prepares to share its accumulated energy with the wider cosmos. The sky of any remaining worlds would be filled by a massive deep red sun, casting long and dramatic shadows in an eternal twilight-like warmth. Eventually the star will reach the absolute limit of its expansion, and it will begin to gracefully shed its outer layers into the freezing, dark vacuum of space. These discarded mists of plasma will move outward in every direction, creating a magnificent and expanding cloud of glowing, multicolored gas known as a planetary nebula. It is a spectacular final exhale, a shimmering ghost of the star's former glory that illuminates the void with a soft ethereal radiance for several thousand years. This celestial structure serves as a brief but beautiful monument, a transitionary bridge between the life of a single star and the fertile dust of the wider galaxy. Within this glowing shell, the intricate chemistry of a lifetime of nuclear fusion is finally released, fanning out like the delicate petals of a light-year-wide flower. Imagine the sheer scale of this luminescent cloud, a vast and silent ghost light that carries the signature of the star's long history into the deep. This dispersion is a generous act of cosmic seeding, releasing the carbon and oxygen forged in the solar core back into the interstellar sea. The nebula marks the moment when the star finally surrenders its physical boundaries, becoming one with the infinite space that once contained it. It is a scene of quiet and overwhelming beauty, a final masterpiece painted on the canvas of the dark by a star that has finished its dance. Surprisingly, the universe has designed a final, compact form for the remaining heart of the star once its outer mists have drifted away. The dense central core that remains will peacefully compress under its own immense gravity into a white dwarf, an object no larger than the Earth, yet possessing a mass that defies our earthly understanding of density. In this incredibly pressurized state, the atoms of carbon and oxygen are forced into a rigid, highly structured lattice, effectively turning the core into a massive planet-sized crystal. It is a solid, shimmering diamond of cosmic proportions, a silent and unyielding remnant that has finished its billion-year labour of nuclear fusion. This structure represents the ultimate compression of matter, a crystalline relic that will endure long after the planets it once warmed have vanished into the dark. It stands as a dense and brilliant monument to the power that once fueled the entire solar system, a small but infinitely heavy jewel resting in the centre of a reclaimed void. This crystalline heart is the star's final, most durable form, a masterpiece of atomic organisation that will never again be disturbed by the fires of fusion. It is a realm of absolute stability, where the chaos of the nuclear furnace has been replaced by the perfect order of a solid crystal. Resting in the dark, it serves as a silent and enduring record of everything the star once was, a diamond forged in the heart of a cosmic fire. Radiating from the centre of this newly formed crystal is a lingering and peaceful warmth that will slowly dissipate into the absolute cold of the interstellar medium. The white dwarf will no longer generate its own energy through the violent process of fusion, but will instead begin a multi-billion-year process of simply exhaling its leftover heat into the endless night. Like the soft, fading glow of an ember slowly cooling in a quiet hearth, the star will patiently surrender the thermal bounty it accumulated during its long and active life. As you relax into the stillness of your own body, allow yourself to feel the lingering warmth of your own presence as it slowly settles into a state of deep and effortless rest. Your own breathing is a quiet, rhythmic echo of this celestial cooling, a steady and tranquil surrendering of energy to the surrounding world. This era of thermal release is the star's long evening, a peaceful period where the light softens and the intense labours of the day are finally set aside. If we were to look closer at the ultimate fate of this cooling crystal, we would find a timeline so vast it makes the entire current age of the universe seem like a mere flickering moment. It will take trillions of years for the white dwarf to finally surrender the last of its thermal energy, cooling down completely until it no longer emits even the faintest glimmer of light. In this absolute silence of the deep future, it will eventually transition into a black dwarf, a cold and invisible sphere of solid matter resting in the eternal dark. This process is the ultimate demonstration of cosmic patience, a slow and inevitable descent into a state of total thermal rest. It is a phase of existence that has not yet occurred anywhere in the known universe, as the stars are all still too young and too warm to have reached this final, silent equilibrium. The black dwarf is the ultimate conclusion of the stellar journey, a state of perfect and eternal stillness that marks the end of the star's thermal history. Deep within the silent corridors of the far future, this diamond-like crystal will continue its solitary and majestic orbit around the centre of the galaxy. Though its light has faded and its fire has long since gone out, it remains a permanent and unmoving passenger on the grand, spiral journey of the Milky Way. It is a lone traveller, a silent witness to the changing arrangement of the stars and the slow evolution of the galactic disk across the eons. This solitary passage is a testament to the enduring power of the star's original momentum, a physical legacy that persists long after the biological life it once sustained has passed into memory. The star does not disappear, it simply changes its form and its role, continuing to participate in the celestial dance as a dark and silent anchor. As it drifts through the void, it carries with it the heavy elements that were once the foundation of our world, a dormant vault of cosmic history. This orbit is a graceful and never-ending movement, a reminder that even in death, the star remains a vital part of the galactic whole. It sails through the darkness with a quiet and dignified poise, a veteran of the light now resting in the peace of the eternal night. This journey through the galactic sea is a long and quiet meditation, a final and steady rhythm that will continue for as long as the galaxy itself endures. Following this grand dispersal, the heavy elements created in the star's core and shed during the nebula phase will drift aimlessly through the interstellar vacuum. These atoms of carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, the very building blocks of life, will eventually find their way into new collapsing clouds of gas and dust. They will quietly become part of a new generation of stars and new unborn worlds, carrying the chemical legacy of our own sun into the distant future of the cosmos. Notice the absolute stillness of your own hands and the weight of your resting frame, realizing that you are composed of the very same materials that will one day seed the stars of the far future. You are a temporary vessel for this ancient matter, a brief and conscious expression of the galaxy's long-term creative process that never truly ends. The sun's conclusion is merely a generous redistribution of its substance, a way of ensuring that the story of life can continue in different corners of the sky. Our star is not a closed system, but is a vital contributor to the eternal, fertile soil of the galaxy, providing the necessary nutrients for future cycles of complexity. This continuous cycle of birth, death, and enrichment ensures that the universe is always moving toward greater beauty and diverse manifestations of the light. We are the inheritors of stars that died before us, and we are the ancestors of the stars that are yet to be born. We can look toward the distant future not with fear or uncertainty, but with a sense of awe at the elegance of the star's inevitable transition. This closure is the ultimate gift of the sun, a final assurance that everything has its time, its place, and its purpose in the grand design of the heavens. Sink deeper into the comfort of your surroundings, allowing this sense of cosmic order to wash over you like a warm and familiar blanket. Everything we have ever known, from the towering mountains of our world to the very cells of our own bodies, will eventually and gracefully transition back into the interstellar dust from which it came. As the star expands and then sheds its layers, the matter of the planets will be reclaimed, broken down into its fundamental atomic components, and released into the cold, fertile dark. This is not a destruction, but is a profound and necessary homecoming, a return to the original cosmic ingredients that once swirled in the primordial nebula. Imagine the quiet and absolute stillness of this final return, as the boundaries of the self dissolve into the infinite expanse of the interstellar sea. The star's fire has served its purpose, and now it and everything it created is invited to rest in the original dark. It is a journey that began in the dust and will end in the dust, a perfect circle of existence that encompasses everything we are. Within this vast perspective, the life and death of a star is as natural and peaceful as the falling of a leaf or the turning of a season. As you drift into the absolute depths of your rest, carry this sense of tranquility with you, knowing that you are part of a system that is as enduring as the light itself. The universe is a breathing and living whole, where every beginning is a hidden end and every end is a quiet new beginning. Rest in the certainty of this balance, trusting in the wisdom of the cycles that have guided the stars for eons. You're safe, you're home, and you are forever part of the light that never truly fades, but only changes its form in the beautiful eternal cycle of the deep. This final resting stop is not the end of the journey, but is simply the moment when the light finds its way back to the heart of the dark. We are not just orbiting a star, but walking, breathing pieces of its ancient light, briefly assembled to witness our own cosmic origin. We are not just orbiting a star, but walking, breathing pieces of its ancient light, briefly assembled to witness our own cosmic origin. The vastness of the galaxy begins to fold inward now, drawing your awareness back from the distant crystalline remnants and the glowing nebulae. This quiet room is the final destination of your journey, a small and sacred harbour where the great cycles of the universe finally come to rest. Surprisingly, the body knows exactly how to settle into this stillness, accepting the weight of the day as a finished story. Let your attention drift down to the very tips of your toes, feeling the subtle pulse of life as it slows to a steady rhythmic thrum. The arches of your feet and your ankles grow heavy, sinking into the soft support of the mattress beneath you. This weight is a physical grounding that anchors you to the peaceful present. Moving higher, the calves and knees release any lingering tension, becoming as still as the deep, dark valleys of the moon. The thighs and hips broaden and relax, letting go of the long miles travelled and the efforts of the day. Every muscle in the lower body is now completely at ease, submerged in a sea of total tranquility. The lower back and the spine begin to soften, each vertebra finding its perfect place in the yielding surface of the bed. Your abdomen rises and falls with an effortless grace, a slow tide that requires no thought or direction. Deep within the chest, the heart beats with a calm and regular pace, a private rhythm that sustains the quiet of the night. The shoulders drop away from the neck, surrendering their burden to the cool, soft sheets that wrap around you like a gentle cocoon. Your arms feel long and heavy, the elbows and wrists resting in a state of absolute motionless grace. Every finger remains perfectly still, the palms open and relaxed in the hush of the room. In this dim and quiet sanctuary, the air feels cool against your skin, a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the blankets. The jaw unhinges slightly, and the tongue rests at the bottom of the mouth, releasing the last traces of speech and intention. Your cheeks and the small muscles around the eyes grow smooth, as if the very air is stroking the features of your face into a mask of peace. Focus entirely on the sound of your own breathing, a soft and steady whisper that fills the stillness of the room. The rhythm of the inhale and the exhale is the only clock that matters now, a natural tempo that leads toward the edge of dreams. The bed is a safe and steady vessel, holding you in a state of total unwavering security. Everything is quiet, everything is still, and everything is exactly as it should be. The walls of the room are a protective boundary, keeping the world at a distance so that you may drift into the deep. Sleep is a welcoming tide, a slow and heavy wave that pulls you gently into the silence. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.